Welcome everybody to the A Little Less Fear podcast. I'm your host for the show, Dr. Lino Martinez. Oh yeah. Hello. Welcome everybody to the A Little Less Fear podcast. I'm super duper excited to introduce Megan Dietrich today. She's an awesome artist and I've been following her for almost 4 years on Instagram. I can't believe I finally get to talk to her. What's up? Thank you so much for being on my show.
Hello, how's it going? It's really great to be here. This is going to be such a fun conversation, I think.
Absolutely. Yes. So I've got a lot of questions, mostly because when I first came across your art, I felt an intense emotion actually. I've never really seen art like yours before. And when I first started scrolling, I don't even remember how I found you. But when I found you, I remember looking at your colors. I remember looking at the lines. I remember looking at feeling a certain emotion from your different pieces of art that you were posting. And I even questioned myself, what about this image gives me this emotion? And I wasn't sure whether it was the colors, whether it was the different textures, the different lines that you use, or whether it was the way that it was all set up. So I'm really curious to know first what category your art is in.
I think the category would be something, I mean, if you want to go really like traditional, it would be like abstract expressionism, or action painting or something like that. But I would categorize it as exactly what you said, sort of emotional mark making. That's what I like to think of it as.
Yeah, because that's definitely what was induced in me when I still look at your art, which is really beautiful. And your colors too. The colors that you use, I purposely wore a
Yeah.
I purposely wore a shirt inspired by your colors.
Oh,
I've got
really?
some yellow. I was like, oh man, what colors do I have that's like Megan's art? Okay, this is as
Love it.
close as I could find. I don't know if you could tell, but there's like a kind of like a light grayish blue and
Yeah. Oh, I see it. I see
yeah.
it. That's
So
amazing.
I love the pastels, and I'm wondering what makes you choose certain colors over others, and as far as what I feel and what I see, how is that close to what you feel and what you see when you're creating this art, or does it just come out automatically?
I think that each painting is different, obviously, but in terms of the colors that I choose, I do that pretty intuitively. I buy a lot of colors and different paints all the time.
Uh-huh.
And like I'll just kind of one day I'll think, okay, and I'll choose really quickly, kind of go with my gut, if you will, on what colors I want to choose. And then I go from there. And I think when it comes to the things you're thinking and feeling, I do my painting really emotionally and it happens very quickly. It's very, I'm working it out on the canvas as it's happening. There's not a lot of planning beforehand,
Mm-hmm.
really, besides the color palette. Um, and even then, sometimes that changes halfway through. But I think that what you're seeing when you look at my painting is a reflection, I would hope, of, yeah, what I was going through at the time or what I was thinking or feeling, just based on the movement and the way the marks are and the way everything kind of flows. I think there's this sort of universal language to that,
Yeah.
and how human emotion sort of sways and ebbs and flows. And so, yeah, I think there is a connection made there, between the viewer and me as I'm making it.
Do the different textures represent a different sentiment, or is it all together one whole feeling?
I think I think it's both, depending on how I'm feeling at the time or what I'm making. I definitely have little corners and bits of paintings that are kind of more of one emotion, of one feeling or sentiment, and then other bits that are maybe the complete opposite, but they all work together to make one complete picture. It's kind of how any feeling works, or any kind of state of being is, right? There's always
Yeah,
bits of yourself that feel a certain way and bits that feel another way, but we
right.
all are made up into this one whole kind of state. So I like to think of it that way.
And do you ever have like a vision first? Let's say, do you ever wake up with an image of what you want to create that day and it's in your head all day until you finally create it? Do you ever get that feeling?
Uh, Sort of, but it always changes once I actually make it. Like I never have an image in my head and then I make something and it's exactly that. Like it all, and I think that's just the nature of who I am. It always ends up being a little bit different, or I just sort of shift the perspective of how I am creating it. So yeah, never exactly the same as what I set out to do, if I do even set out to do anything.
And how long does it typically take you to create one?
Oh, sometimes it's like within, you know, 10 minutes. I do something. Maybe if it's like a more muted palette and there's kind of less color, less components to it. But sometimes I'll start one and then I'll come back to it in a couple of days, or I'll come back to it in like a week and that kind of thing. So it
Wow.
varies, like all of it varies significantly.
How would you describe your art to somebody who has never seen it? Let's say you meet them for the first time and you're like, "Oh, I'm an artist." They're like, "Okay, well, what do you paint?" And you don't have your phone, you don't have anything to show them an image of. How do you describe
Yeah.
it? Because I
Uh,
don't know how to describe it. All I know is that there's emotions in your paintings. That's all I feel.
yeah.
And maybe
Yeah. I
because I'm,
mean,
yeah,
that's what I tend to focus on is the emotion of it, and the, yeah, the human spirit that is inside the paintings, I think. But I guess if I wanted to describe it actually for someone who's never seen it, I would say it's sort of fluidity of color and composition, and a sort of emotional journey based on those two things, if that makes
that's
sense.
awesome. Yeah, and how did you teach yourself this? How did you come up with your own awesomeness?
I don't know. I think I've had such a journey in my life of sort of going through different shifts in my mental health, and being a extremely introverted person, being a person who is always worrying, a person who's always got something complex on their mind. And I just over the years have found ways to express those things in a way that's not so conventional,
Uh-huh.
in a way that also doesn't overwhelm me negatively when I do it. When I paint something, it's even if it's comes from kind of a darker place, the experience of painting it and the product always ends up being positive, a positive
That's
thing
awesome.
in my life. So I think that would be my best answer for that.
And when did you start painting? How old were you?
I started painting when I was like a kid. Like I always liked art, and was always kind of obsessed with visuals and doing all kinds of different things, whether it was making little movies or doing
Uh-huh.
like sculptural stuff or painting or drawing. I had an aunt who is an artist, still is an artist, and she had a really cool studio in her house. And that used to be my favorite thing to do, was to go up to her studio and just like play around with her materials and just, yeah, feel it out. I think for those same reasons that I said before, like having all these things on the inside,
Yeah.
and wanting a positive, less conventional way to get it out.
And when did you realize that you had something special?
Oh, um, I think when I started realizing that people were moved by what I was doing in the same way that I was moved by it. Every time someone like yourself even uh, talks to me about really feeling these emotional connections to my work and really having these like intense responses to it, that's the most amazing gift to me. And it's the only thing that really keeps me feeling like I do have something special, you know, or whatever you want to call it. Like we were talking about with social media and all that stuff, it's so easy to tell yourself you don't have something special, or that you don't have what another person has that makes them special. And so as long as I have these person to person connections of people who are moved by my work, I feel really lucky, and I feel really, yeah, special.
Yeah, and going back to the social media thing, I noticed that I tend to read some, I mean, I read a lot of Twitter and Instagram feeds and see that when people are being down on themselves, I mean, what can you tell people that are not feeling confident enough to share their stuff, or they're feeling they're not an artist? Like, clearly, anybody who feels passionate about what they do, I feel, is that, I mean, that's their way of expression. And if that's their unique way of expression, there's really no right or wrong. But you being an incredible artist, what can you tell people who feel unmotivated, or people that are dogging themselves?
Well, and it's funny, I was having this conversation with someone the other day, and if if you looked around the way that you do when you're looking around at people who you think are better than you, if you gave half as much attention to people who are doing what you do, who are maybe not as good as you or the same skill level as you, and who are confident and who are, you know, killing it, as they say,
Yeah.
um, it's it we never do that. We never really realize that there's so many people who are not that fantastic at whatever they do, but they have this confidence, they have this drive to do something, and that keeps them going, and that keeps them successful, because in that there's always something in what you do, as long as you're doing it.
That's for
And I
sure.
think, yeah, and I think we get so bogged down in comparing ourselves to, oh, this person's technically better than me, or they have a better online presence than I do, or more followers, or whatever. And we end up just getting stuck in that spot. I do it all the time.
I do
Like I
too.
get, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but I think, yeah, that's the main thing, is as long as you are doing something, there is something in that. And you will get better and better at it if you keep doing it. You don't even notice that you're getting better and better at something, or that you're tapping into something greater in yourself.
Hmm.
And then one day you wake up and you see this huge improvement, and that's worth going for, I think.
What is included in improvement?
Hmm. I think having having a better sense of yourself, having confidence. I don't think confidence is something that everybody just has. I
Uh-huh.
think sometimes you have to improve your way to confidence, and to feeling like you're worth it in yourself, you
Yeah.
know, feeling good in yourself. That to me is improvement, because those are the things that always shine through with
Yeah.
the successful person.
Right.
Any successful person has all of those things. They have confidence, they have drive, they're okay with themselves. Those are the things that people want to see, and that people want to take from your work and what you do. So that to me is what improvement is.
Thank you for
The
that.
other stuff just kind of falls into place, you know, whether it's about
Yeah,
technically,
naturally after, yeah, things
yeah,
kind of start like a puzzle,
yeah,
like Tetris.
yeah,
So I'm curious to know, I think I mean, I know the answer. You got your own website, yes?
yeah.
And Megan's website is www.megandietrich.com, MEGANDIETRICH.com. Can people order prints and stuff like that on your website?
No, I don't actually have that like as a permanent thing on my website,
Okay.
because I tend to do like little kind of drops here and there, or
Uh-huh.
I'll have like a show or something and I'll do a release. Like recently I just had a show where I did a bunch of prints and sold them at the show, but I think it makes it kind of a more of a special thing, or more of
True.
a, yeah. So for me, I
Kind of
like,
like a VIP thing.
yeah, and I like prints to be kind of something that people get excited about, and I wait for people to kind of ask for them and ask for them, and then I know that it's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't have things for sale on my website. I just sell paintings, like original paintings, through the gallery that
That's
represents
awesome.
me in Victoria. Yeah.
I'm curious to know what keeps you motivated.
Hmm. What
What
keeps
keeps
me?
that passion going to keep going?
Mm-hmm.
And do you paint every day? I know that's a lot of questions. I just wonder, and they're just popping up in my head.
Yeah, they're all similar questions.
Yeah.
That um, I don't paint every day. It really depends on my mood. And some days I do paint and I'm like, oh, why did I do that? Because everything just felt like garbage and it gets me down. But um, things that keep me motivated are, well, on a kind of surface level. I mean, I have a new son. I have a 6-month-old son. And
Congratulations. Wow, you got
thank,
your hands full.
yeah, thank you. Um, and so now that's kind of brought this new realm of motivation to not only to persevere, to be you know, making a success of myself or whatever, but also just to be an example
Mm-hmm.
of something that I think is important, and to be a person who uh my child can be proud of, and who really believes in themselves, and who does something they're passionate about. And I think outside of that, my own personal journey is really what keeps me motivated, because I know where I've been and I know where I am, and I think I'm always going to be curious about where I'm going, and that curiosity keeps me really alive. I'm a very curious person,
Do you
so
ever
I got
look
to
at
know.
a, sorry to interrupt you. Do you ever look at something that you did, let's say a couple years ago, and then it could take you right back to how you were feeling at the time when you painted that?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Usually more with like, if it was in a darker time in my life, I
Mm-hmm.
will say that, like, I can usually pick out, oh yeah, I remember that kind of, that vibe, that mood. Um, just based on the mark making, like I said, like I really, like, I know myself, I know my flow, and I know my methods and how I kind of put stuff down on the canvas. And you can see it. Like I'm sure you know, by looking at my work, you can see that there's a different movement, there's a different
Oh yeah,
energy to every
absolutely.
mark. And yeah, I think the language that I've created through that is one that I can definitely look back on at
I love how
any
you said
time.
that, the language that I created. That's exactly
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah,
That's your
yeah,
own language.
yeah.
Whoa, that's
Yeah,
so rad. Do you
yeah.
feel that now that you have got a little baby with you, do you feel your art changing? Like, is baby energy giving you a different rhythm, I guess, connection with your colors and stuff?
I don't know. I think I'd have to look back in like a longer amount of time and see if it's really changing, because
Uh-huh.
sometimes I feel like it is and sometimes I feel like it's really not, and other factors change it more. But yeah, I just don't think I've had enough time to really decide if that's a thing.
Uh-huh.
Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. And do you feel that your art has evolved a lot, like within the last, let's say, 5 years or so. Do you see the evolution, or do you kind of see like the same type of feel through everything, or do you actually see a different rhythm?
Oh, I definitely see a different rhythm. Um, it's just subtle things, but I would say it's changed a lot. That's kind of the great thing about having Instagram,
Uh-huh.
is
Yeah,
being
because you
able
could
to
go
always
back, you can
like
look back.
just scroll back and kind of see your older stuff. But yeah, that's it. It's definitely, there's certain elements that kind of always stay. Um, but I think for the most part, it's changed a lot. Like,
And do you have a favorite piece?
no, I don't think I could. It'd be like having a favorite child or something like that.
Right,
Like,
right. Legit.
yeah. Yeah, I know. I don't think I could pick a favorite.
How did you come up with the art diet? I love it.
Oh, that was because, well, my last name is Dietrich, which is like diet rich.
That's true. It is
So it's
diet rich.
spelled, yeah. So my first Instagram was the rich diet. Uh
I like that too.
because of that. Yeah. And so then when I set out to do my art Instagram, people were like, "Oh, what are you gonna call it?" And I was like, "I don't know, the art diet." And now, of course, it's stuck.
It's excellent.
So it's kind of a silly origin story, but that's what it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Megan Dietrich at The Art Diet. 3 words in one sentence, TheartDiet. Make sure you check out her stuff. She also has a website at www.megandietrich.com. It's been awesome interviewing you. I wish we had a lot more time. This is great. And thank you so much for being on my show. I really do feel we're going to be touching a lot of people's passions and a lot of people's hearts. And that's really the point of all of this, to inspire the world. And you've definitely inspired me. And I'm really, really glad that I got the chance to meet you finally.
Awesome. This has been really fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Everybody, a little less fear. Thank you so much for being on my show, and we will chat soon. Thank you.